is no man. The Fiend is an abomination. The Fiend is power. The Fiend remembers. Let me in. Let me in.
Welcome to another edition of Around the Turnbuckle. My name's the Big Alboski. That guy right there is Professor Keith. And Keith, normally if we don't have a guest lined up, we need to search our souls for something to talk about. But damn it, the internet has just exploded with the release of the Fiend / Bray Wyatt from WWE. Before we get into all of that, I want to hear your thoughts on this straight off the bat. Good move, bad move, indifferent. Do you care?
I think, here's the thing. It's hard to say good move, bad move, indifferent move. He hasn't worked since May. He hasn't worked since January. Hi, Chris. He hasn't worked since January. We don't know why he hasn't. Well, actually, no, he hasn't worked since WrestleMania. I'm sorry. We don't know why he hasn't worked since WrestleMania. We don't know if we've been told it's not a creative thing, that it's something on his end.
Right.
Now, we don't know, is he having mental health problems? Has he decided he's quitting the business, that he's done? We don't know.
Right.
So I feel like until you know what his next move is going to be, you can't really say for a fact whether this was good, bad, or indifferent by WWE. Because you don't know. If he shows up on AEW in 90 days, he creates something amazing, they do a 3 rating, start beating Raw, and consistently beating Raw, it was stupid. It was the stupidest fucking thing they ever did. If that happens.
Chris says could be good AEW in 3 months, or he might retire. Right.
And Chris is right.
Right.
You can't right now today say whether this was good, bad, whatever, because you don't know what's next. It all depends on what that next chapter is. For me, I liked Bray Wyatt. I liked Bray Wyatt a lot more as the swamp rat kind of guy. I can kind of understand that gimmick.
Bray Wyatt, the Wyatt family thing.
Right. I thought that had the right amount of kind of weird and supernatural to it. I thought.
You don't think the Fiend was over?
Oh no, the Fiend was over. It just wasn't as over with me. I thought it was a little over the top. I thought it was kind of cartoonish.
Anybody watching that, attack the professor right now.
I understand that I'm the minority opinion on that. I hated that Alexa Bliss was brought into it. I still hate everything that's happening with Alexa Bliss.
Correct.
Right, and that's my point. That's my point, Chris. For all we know, he's taken this time to decide what he wants to do, and maybe he's decided after what happened with Brody that his heart's not in wrestling anymore. It happens.
It's possible. It's quite possible. And I got to say that if that's the case, if his mind and his heart is not in it anymore, he could do something else. I'm sure that he is not going to be able to not find work or whatever he does. He has 4 kids. Part of me thought, the dad in me thought that after this last kid, that, this is his 4th kid. I thought that maybe the combination of that and what happened with Brody Lee kind of pushed him over the edge as far as whether or not he wanted to work anymore. I'll tell you one thing, though. If that's the case, we can't fault him. As fans, we can't fault him for it. Like you said, we're going to go over a couple of little things. We're gonna talk about his career in general. his name, in case you live under a rock and you're not one of those smart fans, is actually Wyndham Lawrence Rotunda. He is the son of Mike Rotunda. Some of you people might know him as IRS.
Grandson of Blackjack Mulligan.
He was born in 1987. He is 34 years old as we speak. 4 kids. He is married to Samantha, his wife Samantha. He lives. I mean, he was born in Florida. From my knowledge, I had heard that he still lives there. I don't know exactly where, but he lives in Florida. In the ring, he has been called by many names, but his most, according to his bio here, he was called Alex Rotunda, Axel Mulligan, Bray Wyatt, of course, Duke Rotundo, Husky Harris. In NXT, I remember that character very well. The Fiend, obviously just the Fiend. And he also did wrestle under Wyndham Rotunda, which I think that if he actually ever made a comeback in, say, AEW, because who else would pay him as much?
Well,
I would honestly think that's what he would come back as, and everybody would know who he is. And I'm sure with his creative genius, and although I saw a little bit today, you guys were going back and forth with heel turn Harry and Al and my son about whether or not how much of Bray Wyatt's character was him, how much the Fiend was him, or how much was it WWE. We don't really know the answer to that question, but if he's that creative, even if he had a small hand in it, I'm sure if he lands in an AEW down the road, he could come up with something if he doesn't just want to come out as Wyndham Rotunda, right?
Well, he's going to have to come up with something because, I mean, nobody, let's face it, I'm not saying he's a shitty wrestler or he's a shitty worker, but he wasn't getting over based on the work. The work was competent. It's the talking. It's the way he could inhabit whatever gimmick he was doing. And he does need a gimmick. He is a guy that, to me, he does need a gimmick. He's
awesome on the mic, though.
Yeah, he's not going to come out in just trunks under his real name, being a white meat baby face or a despicable heel.
No, but I mean, he can come out and say, instead of follow the buzzards, he can come in and say, you want to be saved? I can save you. Follow me.
I feel like there's a certain friend of ours that would take issue with him saying things like that.
All right, Big Nick said, before you get into that, Big Nick says, after being called the Undertaker of his time, how can you waste a talent like him? Also, Professor, if you think the Fiend wasn't over, you're wrong, my friend.
No, I prefaced it. I said the Fiend was over. It was not as over with me. I looked at it as very derivative Undertaker. I don't think he was the Undertaker of his time. I think you guys misinterpreted what the Undertaker was, what it meant, how it worked, and the fact that Undertaker evolved it. Bray evolved the Fiend a little bit, but he didn't have a lot of time with it.
He was starting to, though. It was starting to bubble like that. Yeah, Bray had a 20-year run as going back and forth between Bray Wyatt and the Fiend. Had he had a 20-year run like that, maybe he might have been the Undertaker of his time. It's a little surprising because they were talking about bringing the Wyatt family back. WWE saying paying pay cut wrestlers, overpaid not to wrestle. A lot of people are saying he was cut for budget cuts. Do you agree with that assessment or no?
I don't know. I know what's out there. The last thing I had read was just he was released and more details were coming. I know that we're now heading into the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I know that because, work, I'm supposed to be getting my budget for how much stuff I'm supposed to do in a day, which of course I don't
have. Funny how work works like that.
Yeah, I don't have it. I'm supposed to get an email from the boss because the bigger boss freaking sent it and he's like, did you get that? No. Kind of would like to have that so I would know what's going on. But I mean, would it surprise me if that's what it was? yes and no. No, in the sense of they do this every year, just about. They get ready to go into the third quarter there and they start to tighten up because the second quarter is usually their biggest quarter because of WrestleMania. So
Mhm.
there's always a belt tightening that happens where they cut
So
talents that they're not using. The surprise to me in it is that you cut a guy that for them was a 1 or a 1A performer. Usually these cuts are your 3 or I would say your number 3 or below kind of talents, your mid carders, your guys that you haven't seen on TV for a while,
right.
that you kind of feel like they should be hiding in the back, or they should not be answering their phone, or they should not be going near their mailboxes because there's probably something uncomfortable coming. So I
I'm
think so that's why I think there's got to be something more to it than just, oh,
I,
we're making a budget cut.
I'm sorry, but in my mind, he was the most. I mean, take Cena out of the equation because he's just here to promote his movie for a couple of months.
I
But
don't think that's entirely fair.
well, no, he's on a summer tour, 13 cities.
Right,
He's gonna
but,
and
but,
he's
but
gonna
I'm
end it
saying
in
if he was just
SummerSlam.
gonna, but if he was just gonna promote a movie, he wouldn't work house shows. He wouldn't work all this other
Oh,
stuff.
he missed the
I've had my,
wrestling.
I've had
He
my,
missed the reaction he gets.
yeah,
He missed all that.
I've had my issues with John Cena, but this feels a lot like John Cena knows that they got hit by the pandemic.
Right.
They haven't been doing the greatest lately,
And
and
they
he wants
called
to
him.
go
They called him. You know that.
right, and he wants to go. They don't have Taker, so he wants to go be a good soldier, and he wants to give something back while he doesn't have a
Here's a
lot of
question.
movies probably lined up.
Here's a question. Do you think that Cena's agreeing to come back at this time to help Vince out a little bit, boost some ratings, sell some tickets, and lead us into SummerSlam has anything to do with the WWE losing their patience a little quicker with Bray Wyatt, who was at the time basically told he could probably come back when he's ready, and because he was like their cash cow for it. If people knew he was booked, they would show up. But the pandemic hit, they didn't worry about that anymore. So now people are going to show up for the next 13 cities because they know John Cena is going to be there. Not, you know what I mean? They don't give a damn who else is there. They know John Cena is going to be there. So let's go. And so, but my point is, do you think it sped the process? Because a lot of people are saying that this was supposed to happen a while ago with all these other budget cuts that they did, but somebody said, somebody told somebody in the higher up, say, no, hold on. What if Cena doesn't come back? Maybe theory.
I don't think so. Because here's the thing, the Fiend moved a lot of merchandise. The Fiend was like their biggest merchandise seller. He moved a lot of merch, especially action figures. He was huge
Yeah,
for that. So I
I have
tend
one.
to feel like budget cuts is not the whole reason. I feel like this is kind of a game of telephone where somebody heard budget and budget was probably part of it. Maybe like they said what the first real thing was, and it was one of those, and by the way, it frees up this much in the budget. It was not a case of where I think the argument A was budget. I think there was whatever the real reason is. And then somebody said, oh, and by the way, think about how much money we're going to save. And whoever is running around saying it was a budget deal, all they heard was what we save in the budget. They didn't hear they didn't hear the part before it. Because I just can't see them getting rid of a big merchandise mover and saying, well, it's a budget thing. I mean,
Plus
that's,
the fact
I
that
mean,
he could be Lord.
does that make sense to you? If you're running
No,
a company and somebody's
doesn't
selling you a ton of merch and they're your number one merchandise seller or number two, whatever he is, I know he moves a lot.
right.
He's one of the
Doesn't
top.
Mike doesn't Mike
Like,
Rotundo still work for
would you stick
WWE?
I know they furloughed him. I don't know that they brought him back. I don't think they did.
I thought he was working behind the scenes in NXT as a trainer.
He was working as a producer. He was furloughed during COVID last year, and I don't think he was one of the guys that was brought back. I think he was released. I could be wrong.
If he was released, AEW would be smart to hire him.
If he's on, look, if both or one of them are on the market. But then again, and I say this too as somebody who says AEW, I think, needs to start really looking hard at how much television do they produce, how much first run television do they produce, and do they need all the talent they have? Because there's talk running around now that Tony Khan is having buyer's remorse on some of these guys that he brought in, some of the buddies of his EVPs that he signed up. He's
Right.
having buyer's remorse because they're not getting over. They're not really being used on television. And
Mox is number one.
Paying them six figures. No, Mox is one of the guys I heard that there's buyer's remorse
Vince
on.
loves AEW. Think sending guys down to them to build the audience.
And that again to me suggests that I feel like there's something there that hasn't come out yet, because Vince would have to be cognizant of what a Bray Wyatt, even if he can't be Bray Wyatt.
Vince had a problem with losing weight, but I heard he's in the best shape of his life.
I know that was an issue for a while where Vince made him wear a girdle, to the point that he had to wear a girdle because Vince hated his physique. Because Vince is such a freaking body guy, and I've always said I think that's ridiculous. Because
nobody cared, especially when he was wearing the Bray when he was the Swamp guy with the shirts.
If your gimmick is over enough, and look at Abdullah the Butcher,
Yeah,
and not to be
that fat fuck. No, I'm sorry.
Right,
yeah, not to be what
disrespectful.
He was a fat fuck.
Like shit. Yeah, Abby looked like shit. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But Abdullah was fucking crazy, and he said that he was fucking crazy
and fun to watch.
So you didn't care that he looked like shit because he was gonna fucking kill somebody, and he looked like he was gonna kill somebody. So you didn't care, and you didn't focus on the fact that he looked like shit. That physically he did not look great. And that's always my point, is that wrestlers should be all shapes and sizes. They don't all have to be cut and jacked and out of, Bodybuilder Monthly or whatever.
So you mentioned that he's a third generation. You mentioned Blackjack Mulligan. That's his grandfather. And then his father being Mike Rotunda. And then so just like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, he's a third generation guy. I thought Vince loves third generation guys. No,
I was told the bloodlines and everything like that. Again, gun to my head, I got to be right. There's more to this story, and we haven't heard it yet.
So you're saying there's something else?
I think there's something here. Yeah, there's something else at work here. Either it's a case of they believe he's done, or they believe that if he tries to come back, he's not going to be successful, that something's going to happen, because I just cannot understand releasing a guy at his level to, gift wrap him to an AEW or somebody like that, who would be stupid not to talk to him and see if they can get him in there. Because even though he can't be Bray Wyatt, he can't be the Fiend, I'm sure he can come up with something close enough. That
all these rumors about Bryan Danielson and CM Punk. Wait till you see the rumors about Wyndham Rotunda soon.
Yeah, I mean, and again, if you can land all three of them,
oh Jesus,
you can build that company.
Can you imagine that?
You can fire most of the jackasses that are there now. You can even fire some of the jackass EVPs. And I mean, that's where you build even one of them.
And see, that's where people like my son get pissed off, Keith, because if we start watching AEW, because it's the only place where we could see CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, and Wyndham Rotunda, then it's like, oh, no, you can't be fans of AEW now because all it is regurgitated WWE stars. Well, I mean, what are they supposed to do? They're not supposed to load their roster with talent?
What's the difference now? I mean, Chris Jericho is just doing WWE shit that he's figured out how to make the indie marks happy.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I want to watch Chris Jericho, I got to watch AEW. Right. So this whole thing, talking about AEW for just a second, this whole thing with him and MJF, where he's got to go through all these guys. He wrestled Nick Gage recently. He's got to wrestle Juventud Guerrera, an old foe from back in WCW days. He's got to do all this stuff to get to MJF. The world knows he's going to succeed and get to MJF. But my point is, if I want to see Chris Jericho wrestle, if I still holding on to that because he's like 50 years old, I'm like a huge mark for Jericho, and I want to see him wrestle, I have to watch AEW. So, if that being said, if I want to see Bray Wyatt / the Fiend / Wyndham Rotunda, whatever you want to call him, wrestle again, and he gets signed by AEW, I don't want to hear people like my son say, "Oh no, you can't watch Dynamite now just because Bray Wyatt's on it."
And I'm going to sit there and say to those people, do you want this company to succeed and do you want this company to be around? Because if you do, then it can't be your shitty little clubhouse where it's only guys wrestling the way you want them to wrestle.
Or independent guys like,
doing the shit that you want them to do. To have a lasting company, they need to draw more of an audience. They don't necessarily need to compete with WWE, but TNT is going to want them to draw an audience. TNT is going to want them to make money, and TNT is going to want them to get decent advertisers, which is why I can almost guarantee you we're going to be coming to a point very soon after last week where you're gonna start seeing less weapons and stuff, and guys like Nick Gage maybe aren't going to fit in so well because Pizza Hut was not happy with that pizza.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, Pizza Hut is potentially.
Wasn't it Domino's? I thought it was Domino's that was pissed off.
It was Pizza Hut.
It was Pizza Hut?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to read you guys. There's been reaction across the board. Go on Twitter if you don't believe me. If you have it, you don't even have to have a Twitter account. Go on Twitter and start following some people. And there's reaction from wrestlers all over the business. Not necessarily WWE people, because I think there's a gag order on this subject, at least for now. But
I think it's just politically smart not to. I mean, it's politically smart to never talk bad things about the company you work for. But
former employees of the company, and of course those who work for AEW now, have a lot to say about this subject because they are just as overwhelmed as some of the people that have been commenting here, the Chris Vance and the Big Nicks of the world, who have been saying, wasted talent and things like that. Why would they do this? They're stupid.
And I don't disagree that they wasted him and they did him no favors. I think honestly they screwed him to the point that if they invite him back for a Hall of Fame induction, if this is the end of his career right now, I feel like he would be an opening act. I would feel like he would be an opening act, and within 5 years, there's going to be the people that remember him. And he's going to have almost a Dan Spivey thing like Wail and Mercy, where it's like, that could have been so good or that should have been so good. All the ingredients were there. Yep. Why was it cut off? Why did you fuck it up? That sort of thing. But, I mean, I think the way they abused him, you went from a surefire, WWE champion, franchise heel, guy that would go into a Hall of Fame and probably top whatever class he was in and make them some more money that way too.
Right.
A guy that I think a lot of people had affection for, but when you get past, the current generation of fandom or maybe even half a generation, he's going to be another guy. And it's a shame, and it's WWE's fault because that's how WWE books people now.
In case you just joined us, Professor and I are strictly this entire hour talking about Bray Wyatt, a.k.a. The Fiend, a.k.a. Wyndham Rotunda, getting released from WWE. We welcome your comments and we welcome your questions. Go to at WWE Twitter, and you can see the replies from both fans and wrestlers. One was sent to me directly by our own friend, Christopher Fushardi, who everybody may or may not know. Many people in our little Wolfpack chat think he does not exist. But Christopher Fushardi,
other than you.
Christopher Fushardi. Well, Teresa and Megan were at his house around the holiday, Christmas time.
They were at the house of someone.
Okay. Christopher Fushardi knows I'm a big mark for Mickie James, and Mickie James was always one of my favorite female wrestlers. Mickie James had this to say in response to WWE's release of Bray Wyatt. And I quote from her Twitter, "I think what you meant to say was, thank you so much for coming up with an incredible gimmick time after time again. One so cool and over that we really didn't know how to book it right. So we just gave it to someone else, Alexa Bliss, so we can still make all the money off of it and let you go. That was in her response to WWE saying WWE has come to terms with the release of Bray Wyatt. We wish him the best in his future endeavors.
And again, is it possible? Yes. But let's also remember Mickie James has an axe to grind. Mickie James did not leave on the best of terms last time.
Yeah.
Mickie James has eaten shit from that company before, too. You know, again, I know they can be stupid. I know that every time you sit there and say to yourself, they can't get any stupider, Vince
Do
goes,
I
hold
need to
your
bring
beer.
up Goldberg to you? That Goldberg is being booked at SummerSlam.
Yeah, but I understand why they're doing it. It goes back to, again, nobody is over enough. So
Don't
they
you
need.
dare say you understand why, because I know for a fact you can't stand it.
I
WWE,
can't, but I understand from their perspective why they're doing it because they have nobody fucking over because they've
that's their own
destroyed.
faults, though. Don't you
Yeah,
think that's
they've
their own
destroyed.
fault?
Yes, I do. I've been saying it for years. People have been saying for at least 10 years now. 5 years from now, you're going to be fucked because all these guys are going to be old and they're not going to be able to work anymore. We were saying it when Shawn Michaels was running down. They were
Right,
saying it 10 years before Taker was out. Like,
right.
you cannot rely on the old stalwarts forever because they're going to be done. And then you're going to have nobody built because you mind fucked everybody and ran them out of the business. Or they're like Dolph Ziggler, where they've been yo-yoed and they're scorched earth so much that the minute you try to do anything with them, fans are going to be like, why are you trying to put a title on Jobber Boy? Like, it's ridiculous.
WWE
It's
has
stupid what
enough
they're doing.
talent to fill every show every Monday and Friday. Then just bring a Goldberg or former guests for a few pay-per-views.
And
Yes and no.
and that's
They're
their
starting to
mindset.
wear
But
thin on the talent, though.
I mean, they have people, but like I say, the problem is they'll get somebody really hot and they'll fuck them up. Like right now, the right thing to do coming out of Money in the Bank is the quest needs to be Roman Reigns needing to have things to do and beat people until Big E is shined up and ready to
Right.
cash in, and Big E should cash in right. Do not do like, oh, Roman's dead, I'm gonna pick the bones and
Like make
you
a
know,
challenge.
right. He needs to make a challenge, have him see him coming and be like, hey, WrestleMania, you and me, or Royal Rumble, or whatever they think is the right show for it.
Right.
Big E needs to tell him like 3 weeks, 4 weeks in advance, hey, I'm coming for you on this night. I want a match, and then beat him straight up. So that way
That
you can make a new franchise. And then you've got to really go with him and you've got to build around him because that's one of the problems that WWE does. They'll think just putting a title on a guy, no matter how they do it, will automatically make him over. Or they'll play games like they were with guys like Jack Swagger, where it's like, we're going to make you a bitch in how you win the title. We're going to make you lose a bunch, but non-title, so you keep the title, and we're going to see what you do and see if you explode. And it's like, even
you
if he was
know,
a perfect model citizen doing that, you just told the audience he doesn't matter. And if he can recover from that, the man is Lazarus because nobody can come back from that level of death and burial.
you know, as we're talking, I'm reading more and more here about Bray Wyatt, and I didn't really. It says that he made his debut in February of 2009.
Yeah.
That's only like 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it feels longer, right? Doesn't it? I mean, I know that when the everything came out that he was being released, a lot of the headlines, right, says WWE releases Bray Wyatt slash the Fiend, and then underneath it says, ending a 12-year career with WWE, or after 12 years, WWE releases. And I'm thinking, has it been 12 years? Like 2009?
Yeah,
Like,
because he was on the NXT thing as Husky Harris. They put him in the new Nexus with that. They got him off TV for like a year.
mm-hmm.
When that all broke up, they repackaged him as Bray Wyatt, and he's been up. Excuse me, he's been up and doing something, ever since.
And
So I mean,
Bray Wyatt brought in Brody Lee and what's his name? Eric Rowan.
Yeah.
in NXT, and that group became, well over in NXT. They move it up to main roster.
They were over as shit on the main roster too. Remember?
Well, yeah, 2013, yeah.
Remember when they put them against the Shield, and before they even touched, people were chanting, "This is awesome."
Michael Frazier, what's up, Michael? I hope he goes to AEW as Wyatt Fiend guy and takes over the Dark Order, as them turn on the Hangman, and he and Hangman have a great feud. That would be great, but the problem there is, Michael, is that he can't take the Wyatt Fiend guy to AEW. That is owned by WWE. So if he came to AEW, we were just talking about that before. He'd have to be Wyndham Rotunda, which is his real name, or he'd have to come up with something completely different, but maybe similar in a way.
Yeah, because if it's too similar, even if you change the name, they'll sue. They'll sue for infringement. So,
a reboot. Okay.
Yeah, and my other problem with putting him in the Dark Order immediately is you cause problems for Hangman, because to me the long-term story for AEW, if they're smart, and I know that's a giant if sometimes, but your storytelling there should be, you've had Hangman
Tony Khan we're talking about, Keith.
Yeah, you've had Hangman Page as kind of becoming the champion. That story has been there since day one.
Yeah, but forever. Too long. Yeah. They're taking too long to get there.
They probably are, but they have to let the misfit, dummies do their shit first.
I want to get this comment in. Chris Van. As a fan for 40 years, I don't understand the releasing to other wrestling associations, then bringing them back for a bit and releasing again.
Well, I mean, you used to do things like this in the territory days, where it used to be you would be in a territory, you would kind of come to your natural expiration date, and then you would go somewhere else. Either the promoter would call you or you would call around or whatever, because you understood you couldn't stay in one place for long. That's why what I think we're learning now is how amazing guys like Shawn Michaels or The Undertaker or Steve Austin, the people that were able to work in one place nationally for such a long period of time and be over, and the audience never got tired of that.
Let me address the fact that big shout outs to TJ for showing up. What's up, TJ? Yes, Michael, he is a character. Let me tell you something. TJ was a big, huge fan of The Undertaker, just like yourself. And when The Undertaker was done, well, basically, when The Undertaker stopped wrestling regularly, when he was wrestling every year at Mania, he was only watching Mania and not even live. He was watching it whenever he could watch it, and he was watching The Undertaker. Then I introduced him to Bray Wyatt, and he was like, I like him, right? And then with the Fiend thing, he's like, oh, I really like this, okay? And it started to get him into it. My point to that is, I'm sure there's a lot of Undertaker fans out there that miss that Mystique character and were latching themselves on to the Fiend because he's the only thing close to it, and now it was just taken away from them. Agree or disagree?
I mean, I do get that. For me, I thought it was
shout out, brother.
But I know, like, for every me that thinks it was too over the top, there's like probably.
But why do you think that? Why do you think it was over the top?
Because the problem for me was you have this over the top, supernatural, weird character, and it doesn't fit with the rest of what's going on in the company. Taker fit for a long time because Taker came in when you still had guys like Hogan and you had the larger than life, cartoonish kind of guys, and then they started to go away. But Taker kind of earned the right to be in that lane. But even Taker was smart enough to realize as time went on and more of those characters went away, okay, I have to ground this a little more.
Right, so he did, and he was the biker dude.
That's what leads him to do the biker thing, because it's like, I think I've hit the point where we can't take this any further, and it's got to go away, at least for a little while. and then it can come back, and it can come back stronger
Dance
than
and
ever.
dodge. I'm a mini Big Show. That's a compliment. I actually went to a wrestling show, Keith, and I had a big sign. I forget what it was. It was in Philadelphia, but I forget which pay-per-view it was. And I had a sign that said, "I'm the Big Show's son," which is funny because I think we're the same age. We're pretty close to it. I'm 45 and he's like in his mid to high 40s. So
Something like that. But I mean,
he might be 50.
But I mean, like I say, we don't know that WWE released him to go to AEW or something. I'm positive there are guys that, yes, they did that, because there is something to the strategy of let him burn himself out and pay too much money to guys that we were done with, and you can just go bankrupt yourself, and then we'll scoop them back up for less, because now there's no one to play us off against, because Impact isn't breaking the bank to get anybody.
But AEW will.
ROH isn't really breaking the bank to get anybody. No offense to them. Their budgets are what their budgets are. Their corporate parents are spending what their corporate parents want to spend. You know, the only one out there that's throwing big money around and probably throwing too much money in some cases, because, again, I hear he's getting the buyer's remorse on some of the mid-card guys that
But he should start releasing them.
And that's probably what you're going to start seeing down the road.
If he signs CM Punk, Bryan Danielson.
What he won't do, and actually I think it's smarter, is don't release them. Suck it up. Let them serve out the contract, because their contracts are probably not that long.
Yeah.
Let them serve out the contract, and then you just don't rehire them. And they'll just disappear from TV and nobody will care. Because, like, the guys I'm hearing specifically about with this is like your Joey Janela's and guys like that. And I don't think there's an AEW fan out there that can tell me with a straight face that it's going to break your heart or you're going to stop watching the show because Joey Janela's not doing it. Because you're already doing it. You're already watching the show and he's not there.
Right. If you are watching us for the first time, give us a like on our video. Give us a subscription. If you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You will get us every Saturday and Sunday. You will get Home Team Sports on Tuesdays. And we just popped up on last night, Keith. We did a spontaneous show about the Major League Baseball draft. And you'll get Spinning with Spitter on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. We got more comments flying in. Michael, didn't Vince just say he'd give AEW more talent? LOL. Yeah, he did that. He did say that in an interview in a joking manner, kind of condescending towards AEW. Joey Janela needs to hit the gym. Yes.
Yeah, and that's like I say, that's part of my
and come up with a better gimmick, because I'm sorry. But no offense to Joey. Joey's a good worker. Joey Janela needs a better gimmick than that.
Yeah, he is what he is. He's an opening match guy right now. And he's making more money.
Incredible talent, though. Incredibly talented. Like, loads of talent. That might be an AEW wasted talent in my book, because they could do things with him, but they just, he is who he is.
And he does get himself into silly situations every so often away from the ring that then wind up going public. I think some of the AEW guys would really benefit from not being on Twitter. I've said that for a while.
With WWE, I'm not liking the Raw and SmackDown champs keeping the title for as long as they do. Title needs to change hands more. That's a debate for years, Keith.
Yeah.
Before you get into that, let me attack that one right now, because that's a debate for years. Because old school guys, and Chris, you're an old school guy. You remember when Hulk Hogan had it for 3 years, how big of a deal it was when he finally lost it. Or going before him, it was even longer, right? Or the Macho Man Randy Savage had it for like an entire year. Or Honky Tonk Man had the Intercontinental title for an entire year. How much was it? When you're flip-flopping the title every other week or month, to me, it means a little more. I know it's been forever with Roman Reigns, but just think of how great it'll be for the fans, especially when Roman Reigns finally loses the title to, say, a Big E or whatever.
Who is worth flipping the title to? That is the question. And I'm not saying nobody's worthy. I'm not saying there aren't guys on the roster that are worthy of it. But yeah, I think Big E is. But that's a journey. That's a quest. You don't have 4 or 5 main event guys like you
Eh,
did during the Attitude Era or the Nitro era in both companies that you could be flipping the title every couple months and it didn't hurt the title
Roman's on
because
a roll.
everybody
Lashley's
was
time is
over.
up. Is it? Roman's on a roll. Lashley's time is up. Yeah, I don't know. Lashley hasn't had it as long as Roman though.
No.
So how
But
can
I
you say
mean,
that?
and again, who do you flip it
Time is up.
to?
What? To Goldberg? Don't you dare, Michael! Don't you dare come on here and say that they're going to flip the title to Goldberg.
What would be the point?
There is no point. There's no point for the match at all.
Well, I can understand where they think there's a point to a match. It's two big bulls of the woods. But to
Nope.
me, the idea should be Lashley slays Goldberg, and then you have a situation where
Because
you
he's
can
stale. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
you'll figure out a way to come back to Lashley and Drew.
So who should they flip it to, Michael? If it's not Goldberg, you said no. You said no.
Because that's my
Who?
point. You've got to build some people up, and you can't just flip titles around to build people up. Because like we've established over the last 15 years or so, I think it's
Not
been.
Drew. Not Drew. See?
Okay, but who else is there? Who else is that over at this point?
Someone I don't have a solution.
Then you don't flip the title, Michael. It's that simple. You have to know where
Let's
you're
see what the
going.
draft does. Are they having a draft, Keith? Did I miss something? Are
I
they?
haven't heard anything about a draft lately.
Yeah, I haven't heard nothing about a draft. They usually do it after Mania, and I thought
They
that they
might,
did.
well, they might do one after SummerSlam. I know they've done that before.
Probably Big E after the draft. We were talking about Big E. Big E's got the money in the bank, and he can cash it in whenever. And I like Keith's idea of him challenging the champion straight up. He's meaning Big E should challenge Bobby Lashley, not Roman.
Which I mean, that could work too. But then my problem is, if you take him away from Roman,
We're gonna shake things up tonight.
Who do you have for Roman then? Because the title's got to come off at some point.
You got
I do agree
Edge.
with that. But that's going backwards.
Well, that's what Vince does, right?
And Edge is supposed to be part-time.
Isn't that terrible? We can't even name drop someone. Yes.
Yeah, and that's my whole point. And that's also why too I really just cannot believe that this was budget cuts or something as simple as that, because it is completely stupid, asinine, fucking crazy to
Well,
me.
you're right.
They would on. I mean, look, Vince is not well. I suspect what I think Vince has. I'm not going to go into it here because I don't know what would potentially constitute, something that could get me in trouble.
Well, you can talk to me after the off the air.
I've talked to you about what I think Vince has based on, living through it with my uncle.
Right.
But I don't think that doesn't cause dementia or anything.
They could have had Riddle ready. Dude, Riddle's not. I mean, they still got time with him. They're still building him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they can. I see him as like a Rob Van Dam. I think he has a ceiling, and I think that ceiling is not champion. I think
Intercontinental or United States champion is
as
far as
U.S. champion. Maybe he gets the world title for a sniff at one point, like when you're transitioning.
Well, Michael's saying lots of people say Vince has dementia.
Yeah, but who are those people? Do they know Vince?
Right.
Do they talk to him? I've spouted off about different things, but I don't know him. I've never.
There's lots of speculation.
I'm going through books. I'm going through people that have worked.
If anybody can find out,
a lot of these people have an axe to grind too. A lot of these people have bad experiences, and they're probably talking from their bad.
Time out. Let's not talk about Vince right now. We're talking about Bray Wyatt, and if anybody can find out what really went on here behind the scenes, it's this guy right here on the right side of your screen. Because I'm telling you right now, whenever I think I have all the answers, just like Roddy Piper, may he rest in peace, by the way, that was today, he changes the questions.
Because, I mean, guys, just think about it. what Bray was.
It's time to move on. The little guy for the title, like Mysterio, AJ Styles, Seth Rollins.
I think Mysterio doesn't belong on that list, personally.
Well, Rey Mysterio is past his prime. He's there to help Dominic out.
Even when he was more in his prime, I don't think he was the kind of champion that
But
AJ.
the only reason why Rey Mysterio is still on the roster is to help Dominic's career.
Oh yeah, we know that. But I'm just saying, going back to no.
Orton isn't a solution, correct?
No, but again, while you have him, he should be helping guys get ready. AJ should be helping guys get ready. You know, you have the talent there, and you have some other guys like Seth and whatnot that they're over. They can lose a few, they can do some mid-card feuds, and it's not going to hurt them. You know, Bray, like Seth, again, should have been getting Cesaro ready. Should have been getting Cesaro to that next level. Cesaro should have been a champion by now.
Here's a friend of yours. They're going to keep firing people until it's just Roman and Charlotte left because it's Vince's eyes. That's all they need.
And yes, he's trolling to some degree, though. He does make sense. Vince gets his favorites, and then Vince relies on them and runs them till they're dead. But,
all hail the Queen!
But that happens with a lot of promoters too. I mean, we don't know if your best friend in the world, Tony Khan, is going to do that.
My best friend or Alan's?
Alan's best friend.
Alan's best friend is Tony Khan?
He's only had a couple of years.
Are they close?
Well, I'm just saying, he's probably one of those people, like Dave Meltzer, that thinks Tony Khan is the greatest booker ever.
He was just down in Florida, by the way.
He won Booker of the Year last year.
Oh, my God, yeah. So thoughts on Bray Wyatt. Send us your thoughts on Bray Wyatt. Man, we're getting too much into Vince. We all know Vince is getting old. Yeah. We all know Vince has got problems. We all can speculate that Vince is sick. But I don't think any of that had anything to do with the release of Bray Wyatt. But if anybody can find out.
I don't think we know what the true reason is yet. I just don't.
It's him.
Budget cuts don't make sense. A guy that's making.
I don't think it's budget cuts.
That much money. That much money in merch. He's earning his paycheck. Yeah. Why do you cut that?
Sitting at home.
Off? Yeah. Why would you cut that flow of money off unless there is some kind of, there's something else going on there.
In case the Chris and Michael and other people watching don't know who that is, Adam Scherr is Braun Strowman. And so Wyndham Rotunda and Adam Scherr are all elite in your dreams. Good luck with that.
Yeah, Braun Strowman wants like $1 million per night or something.
Per night?
I don't know. I know he made some ridiculous demands.
They're paying people $1 million per year, but not per night.
I'm just saying, like I know he's
the Stro show.
Yeah. He's created like some kind of ridiculous pricing schedule. So
didn't I hear that the WWE might be bringing him back? Maybe
there's been rumors about that. I don't know.
Because they're still selling his merch and stuff, and
yeah, I didn't hear that. Like that they actually put new merch up or something. And it could be that. It could be somebody found some shit in the warehouse that they want to get rid of. I don't know. I don't know on that one. He's huge, so a guy that big,
literally and figuratively.
And he's not Giant Gonzalez or anything in the ring where he's hurting people. So, yeah, there's always a chance that Vince is going to turn around and go, why did I fire him?
All right. So I'm going to say this. Plain and simple, okay? The fact that Bray Wyatt is gone, if it is on Bray, if it's his decision or if it's mental or physical problems or both, if it's all the above, if it's everything that's happened in his life all come together in one big perfect storm, he's like, I'm done with professional wrestling. Okay. So be it. But if there's other things at work here, as Keith has alluded to, if there's a reason why Bray Wyatt / The Fiend is no longer going to ever be in my life, I'm irritated. I'm irritated because I love that character. And no, he wasn't The Undertaker, but God damn it, he was on his way to become that kind of character. He was on his way. Yes, he was. Keith, shit on it if you must. but he was on his way to become that character.
I'm shitting on the booking because if you want a character to be a fucking monster and to be over, he needs to win. Like, all the time. Like, just about all the time. But every time you put him with, like, a Randy Orton or somebody like that, that was his kryptonite.
Why is Finn Balor back? Because they need him.
And it's Finn Balor. Like, what's wrong with Finn Balor?
There's nothing wrong with Finn Balor. It's that they need him. And there's a guy that if Cena is not, obviously not winning the title at SummerSlam, there's a guy that Roman could work with down the road. Professor is right. Whoa. Michael. Professor is right about what?
What am I right about?
Huh?
I mean, I know if you ask me, I'm right about everything, but I mean...
They jobbed him too much and ruined his mystique.
Exactly. A character like that, and that's part of what made Taker. And I know people won't like hearing that, but there are times where you just got to ramrod a motherfucker over.
Taker would lose.
Taker would lose, but how much did Taker lose, especially early on? Not much. It would be an event if Taker dropped the match.
I mean, he came in 1 year in, he beats Hulk Hogan for the title.
Right, and how many matches did he drop before that happened? Almost none, right?
Undertaker is his own beast. Never do stupid Wyatt stuff. Wyatt couldn't hold Taker as jock.
And I'm not trying to shit on
That's
Bray
an opinion.
I
love The Undertaker. Don't say I don't love The Undertaker. I love The Undertaker. He knows.
Yeah, but I'm saying I liked Bray Wyatt. I just liked Swamp Bray Wyatt. I was willing to give the Fiend a chance. Maybe the Fiend without the Mr. Rogers stuff would have been better for me because I thought the dichotomy was weird.
Who has a better chance of winning, Cena or Goldberg?
I think Goldberg.
Goldberg has a better chance of winning at SummerSlam than Cena?
Because I don't know what Cena's movie schedule is. I feel like what this is Cena being a little smarter than The Rock and saying, look, I have this time where I don't have projects booked.
Right.
I don't have a movie to be insured for. So let me go in and do this. And then I can go back and do the movie thing and nobody can yell at me because for those that don't know, a lot of why Rock quit wrestling is because when Rock did the second match with Cena, he was in the midst of pre-production on that Hercules movie.
And he got hurt.
He ripped like every muscle down his right side.
Yep.
And he nearly put that movie in jeopardy where it had to be pushed back. And he was sat down by producers, his agents, and other people, and they said, look, Dwayne, you've got to choose. Either you're going to go play wrestler and you're going to do that, or you're going to be an actor. Because if you're trying to do both like you're doing, nobody is going to insure you. You cannot.
All right, so answer this. If all that's true and Cena's and Roman's going to beat Cena somehow, why would Goldberg beat Lashley?
I'm not saying Goldberg would beat Lashley. I was being asked hypothetically.
Yes. Who has a better chance?
Who would have a better chance? That's what you asked me. I'm saying based on that, I think Goldberg would have a better chance. Neither fucking one of those guys should be winning shit at this point.
Right. Well, Alan's saying Cena could work around his movie schedule as champion. Lesnar defended it twice a year. Why can't Cena?
Well, Cena can't because Lucy Lawless isn't,
I know who he meant. Can Big E cash it in on Lashley? Yes.
He can cash it in on anyone technically, but like I say, because Big E's a babyface, and because I think the whole point here is to create a new franchise in Big E.
Alan, take the G off of that chant. Take the G off of that chant. You got something there, buddy.
Yeah. Big E needs to do the Rob Van Dam, where he needs to go, hey, I'm telling you I'm coming. I'm telling you what show I'm going to. And look, for all I know, that could be part of it too. Maybe the roles are drying up.
He makes money though. I mean, he's in Suicide Squad's coming out. He makes money.
Maybe it's a case of the roles.
His acting sucks. You're right.
Maybe for all we know, Hollywood is starting to say, he's not the guy. We put him in these big franchises.
Well, he's a good comedy guy. He's not an action guy. He's a good comedy guy. You know, you ever see Cockblocker? Hilarious.
Well, John Cena's good at playing an idiot. He did it for 10 years.
Yes, and that's why, right. That's his forte, so put him in comedies. Don't put him in this action stuff.
But if they put him in comedies, only comedies, there's a ceiling for what he can do.
No.
And then I might understand why he would
Adam
think,
Sandler's been making the same movie for the past 30 years.
Yeah, but
with just different actresses. So you can do the same thing with John Cena. If somebody writes for him, he's good. He's fine.
You think John Cena's Adam Sandler? You seriously think John Cena's Adam Sandler?
His acting does not suck. The new Suicide Squad is pretty good, way better than the first Dumpster Fire. The Suicide Squad is putting DC movies back on top, but not because of John Cena.
I hope it will, because I love the concept of a Suicide Squad.
And you know I love John Cena, Alan.
It's never been done well other than the original writer, but I would love for there to be a good Suicide Squad.
I hope so.
I want a good Suicide Squad movie.
I saw the trailer. I'm excited, but I have my expectations low because of that first pile of crap.
Which, I mean, I'm one of the rare people out there that will say there was a good movie in there somewhere. It just didn't come together.
Harley Quinn. Did you see Birds of Prey?
I saw part of it and was just kind of like, no.
Why not?
It's just one of those things, just kind of like, I don't know, I didn't need to come back to it. And I'm a fan of some of the characters that they...
I like what's her name as Harley Quinn. It works for me.
Yeah, Margot Robbie is good in the role.
Margot Robbie, that's her name. Margot.
She's good in the role. But they changed a lot of characters that I have a lot of attachment to.
Is it because of Cena, though? He's the best character in the movie and he gets the most screen time. How do you know that? You haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it hasn't come out yet. It doesn't come out.
Birds of Prey suck. No, it did not. It comes out, I think, this week.
Yeah, it comes out Friday.
This Friday. It comes out this Friday on HBO Max. Or you can go to the theater and see it. But, hey, what about all that shit with Scarlett Johansson suing Disney because they put it out on Disney Plus and not as many people went to the theaters to see it? We're talking Black Widow.
Yeah. I think part of the problem there, too, was a Black Widow movie made a lot more sense to people before they killed her in Endgame. Spoilers. Yeah, whatever. It's 3 years old.
I didn't see Black Widow yet. I'm going to see it, though.
I think the idea of a continuing contemporary Black Widow story appealed to people more than she's dead now, and this is going to be a story in the past.
I think Marvel fans just love Scarlett Johansson.
And I mean, also too, you know, Disney can claim the pandemic. I don't think the lawsuit's going to end very well, and I think this is a case of, you know, somebody who maybe is not doing a lot, and kind of was hoping this was going to be the last great cash grab, because that Marvel cash, I mean, that's done a lot for everybody. You think about it now. Everybody in that Avengers movie, movies, they got them for dirt when it started. Absolute dirt.
Yep.
And now every single one of them is like, you will give me $6 million.
It's a cash cow.
Yeah, and it made all of those people stars to where they can all basically
So why is Scarlett Johansson getting pissed off?
Cocaine and a hooker in my trailer every day of this.
Scarlett Johansson got paychecks from Disney for how many years now doing those Avengers movies, and now all of a sudden she's pissed off about one.
Her hope was she was going to get, this was going to be the one last big pile of money. It was going to send a message about the viability of that character, because there were a lot of movies where they did not do Black Widow justice, that she was not front and center like she should.
She was kind of like,
she was kind of a sidekick.
Right. Yeah, so, I agree with that.
I get where you can look at that as an actress and you can say, yeah, I'm making millions of dollars, But fuck you. I also want to, do something meaningful, and I
All
want to.
right, what's the last word? All right, let's wrap this up, Keith. What's the last word on Bray Wyatt? Where do you see Bray Wyatt in the future? Like best prediction.
I mean, I don't know what his state of mind is. I don't know why he was released. It's hard to say.
Yes. Top Gun.
That's what we need. Creepy
We
ass.
need Top Gun 2.
Creepy
That's
ass.
correct.
Creepy ass 40. Well, no, he's like almost 60 now.
He's 60 years old, Keith.
Is
No,
he?
I'm sorry. Finish your thought. Chris had to interrupt you. It wasn't me. It was Chris Vant, not me.
You mean finish the thought about shitting on Tom Cruise, or finish the thought about Bray Wyatt?
About Bray Wyatt. We're gonna end this with how we started with Bray Wyatt.
Okay, fuck Tom Cruise. That's all. That's
fuck Tom Cruise. Right.
I mean, to me, like I say, there is so much of a story we don't know right now. I don't buy budget cuts. I don't buy that we have heard the full nature of this story. So to me, it's one of two things. If Bray Wyatt wants to continue,
retires.
Yeah, if Wyndham Rotunda wants to continue in the wrestling business, he's going to have offers.
It's on him.
He's going to have offers if he just wants to wrestle here and there for whatever.
TJ, the Fiend needs less exposure, more exclusivity. Is that a word? Exclusivity.
Yeah.
I know what he means. And a vigor push. I think he means bigger push, more mystic. Right. So, kind of like an Undertaker thing, like not to bring it back to the Undertaker, but like where the Undertaker was an attraction, and you'd pull him out a weekly, and you'd have him like once a month, and then once a month became once a year eventually, and bringing him back like that could be a possibility. But I don't know if the Fiend is a big enough attraction to just put him on Mania every year.
No, I wouldn't have done that, but I would have done something where, maybe you use Mr. Rogers, Bray Wyatt more, and you have to build things to where it's like,
those were fun. Come on now,
you pay for the Fiend.
One last thing, Alexa Bliss. You mentioned earlier, can she go back to normal now? Is that what you want?
I really do. I like the old Alexa Bliss.
Guys, how do you feel about that? Should Alexa Bliss still be crazy and doing the family funhouse thing and carrying that nuttiness on, or what? Like at the Money in the Bank, she was controlling Zelina Vega with mind powers. It was great, Keith. It was great. Oh, you're not okay with that, but you're okay with The Undertaker going like this and striking people with lightning in the ring.
He earned that shit.
Okay.
Taker's different.
Alexa Bliss is great. Yeah, they gave his gimmick to Alexa. Yes. And yes, it's cool. They like it, Keith. Why are you the only person that doesn't like it?
Because
Harry likes it. Alan likes it. My wife likes it.
Okay, great for them. I don't.
You're the only one. You and Cornette, right? Does Cornette shit on that?
He's not a fan, but he's not a fan of
anything. There it is.
Modern wrestling. I took Dare. I know how to resist peer pressure, and that's what I'm going to do in this case. I am going to resist your peer pressure.
Okay. To prove anyone can be replaced, and it's the machine, not the talent.
And that's the problem, and that is what WWE wants.
But it's bad.
They want the WWE brand to be over, and they want all the talent to be interchangeable. And Alan's right; it is bad because
I doubt he's going to see this. But Wyndham Rotunda, if you never wrestle again, thank you for everything that you did for this business. Thank you for the time that you were 12 years. In our lives, on our TVs, week in and week out, on Raw, on SmackDown. Thank you for the Wyatt family. Thank you for the Fiend. Everything was so much fun. If he never wrestles again, I just want to say thank you. But if he does wrestle again, I hope it's soon. And I hope everything that he's going through with his family, with his mental state, with everything that he's going through, I hope that he gets well soon and everything happens. Be serious for a minute. I enjoyed every minute. I did. I enjoyed all of it. I enjoyed the Swamp Guy, Bray Wyatt, just as much as the Fiend. I'm a huge fan. So I hope he wrestles again. I don't care if it's AEW. I don't care if it's Impact. I don't care where he shows up. If he shows up on my wrestling TV again, I'll be a happy person. And if he never does again, it's gonna. I'm gonna really miss it. I'm gonna really miss it. Who does like a freak woman wrestler? If they let him do his thing in AEW, it'll be just as good. But it'll be a reincarnation of the Wyatt and Fiend, but it'll be super sick. Great show, guys. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael Frazier, for all your comments and your questions. Thank you, Big Chris Fan. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, TJ. Thank you, Big Nick. Thank you all, everybody who's watching us today. Whether you're a fan of Bray Wyatt or not, man. Godspeed, Bray Wyatt. Good luck in everything that you do down the road, whether it's just go home and be a dad or whether you're in our rooms again sometime down the future. Keith, any last words?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. It will be tremendously sad if we never see him wrestle again. But at the same token, it's his choice. We don't know.
Sucks.
Where he's
it just
at.
sucks.
He's got 4 kids, and
I know.
And maybe he's just decided, you know what? I want to go home and I want to be a dad, because he knows firsthand what 300 days on the road a year does to a kid. Because
maybe we'll see him down the road at Legends of Hamburg. I mean, not necessarily next year, but a couple years down the road.
Would love that.
I would love that.
And I mean, I do hope if he has the spark to continue wrestling, that this is a case of just he decided he wanted to ply his trade somewhere else. And look, one of the attractive things about AEW is that schedule is a lot better.
Tomorrow night, guys, we are interviewing our first referee from Top of Texas Wrestling, Parker. Pardon me if I don't say your name right, Charzanowski. You could probably correct me on that, Parker. But Parker, senior referee Parker from Top of Texas Wrestling, live from Amarillo, will be here on this program tomorrow night. Keith and I will be back at 6 o'clock. Thanks, everybody, for chiming in. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And we'll see everybody tomorrow on Around the Turnbuckle.
Yowie wowie! Is no man. The Fiend is an abomination. The Fiend is power. The Fiend remembers. Let me in. Let me in.